Non-resident Indians, or NRIs, are the intellectual property of developed nations like the USA, Canada, and the European countries. They have succeeded and excelled in diverse fields thanks to their hard work and dedication. Today, they're a force to reckon with. If Indians can succeed in other countries, why not in India? Several successful and prominent non-resident Indians decided to get together and launch a movement in order to help Indians overcome the obstacles and hurdles that they face and succeed. These NRIs felt that Mahatma Gandhi was himself the greatest non-resident Indian ever. Therefore, appropriately, this movement was launched in Mahatma Gandhi's very own Sabarmati Ashram at Ahmedabad. Thus, Action India was born. Action India movement was launched from the Sabarmati Ashram on 18th of December 1999. Amongst the people present were the founding members Mr. Sam Pitroda, Dr. Shiban Ganju, Dr. Prakash Desai, Ms. Shabana Azmi, and other dignitaries. Action India was started by a group of Indians living in USA who have been involved with India in thought and in deed. It aims to be a network of people from different walks of life who wish to contribute in their own way to the proper and efficient development of India. Their mission is to unite their efforts for innovative strategies for the development of the people. Together, these individuals can overcome obstacles and magnify the impact of their work.
He was the greatest communicator ever lived. In the age...
The emphasis of Action India is on implementation. It is a movement which is democratic, has no hierarchy, and operates with consensus. The objectives are to hasten the development in India, create human and material resource base, create climate for new order and innovation, build consensus through public dialogue. Concurrently, a two-day conference was organized at the prestigious Professor Ravi Mathai Auditorium at IIM Ahmedabad. The idea was to take stock of the socio-economic and the political scenario and see how the Action India program can be successfully integrated into the existing framework.
We believe Mahatma Gandhi was one of the greatest non-resident Indians ever lived. We take a lot of aspiration. We look at home, we think of his dedication, his commitment, and we feel that is the kind of spirit that is required going forward. When you look at the independence movement, you realize that almost everyone that mattered at that time was an NRI. Sardar Patel, Vallabh Patel, Nehru, Menon, Tilak, you name it. They all came in from England, basically lawyers, and joined the existing independence movement. Not that there was no independence movement before that, but they gave us then different impetus.
गुजरात की प्रजा भी उसका महत्व समझती है और इस दृष्टि से आपने जो कार्यक्रम किया ये बहुत ही उपकारक है। मैं ऐसा बताऊंगा कि मैं सबका नाम तो नहीं लूंगा, लेकिन हमारे यहाँ
The conference saw lively discussions and debates with moments of serious thinking and introspection. It was addressed by reputed thinkers, academicians, industrialists, policymakers, activists, and social workers. They all spoke discussed and debated strategies for speedy development.
Even as in the 50s, when Nadega brought their first survey on Indian poverty, it showed 35% of Indians.
The living standard, at least at a certain level, is considered fair.
I have my doubts. Thank you for your patience.
The panelists discussed strategies to hasten development and examined the bottlenecks. How to build consensus through public dialogue, how to create human and material resources, create a climate for a new order and innovation also formed the topic of discussions.
All the conflict resolution, all the issues that the speakers have been talking about, if we leave it to find its own level, we are unlikely to derive the maximum advantage out of it.
No, I completely disagree.
Anyone who's working in the grassroots knows that you have to be politically correct. In doing something, you have to have access, so it's not everyone that has access to media.
The difference between the Industrial Revolution and the Knowledge Revolution is that in the knowledge era, there isn't going to be any distinction between the low technology, and high technology industry. No industry, whether in entertainment, whether in services, whether in tourism, whether in atomic energy, whether in aircraft manufacturing, or whether in running a restaurant or a hotel, is going to survive without the application of knowledge.
Now, as a matter of fact, there's a guy who is a very big internet business entrepreneur in the Silicon Valley. His name is Chris M. Murphy. And his business was going down. And he looked around and found out any name, Indian names doing very well. And immediately he changed Krishnamurthy. Murphy changed it to Murthy. Chris is Chris. And N was his middle initial, he changed on A. Business is booming, man.
And then SDM, SDO, BDO, Tahsildar, Thanedar, and going down and down and down upon the people. But accountability, if there is any, is upwards. Tahsildar doing something wrong is not accountable to the people to whom he has done the wrong. He is accountable to the...
I think the principal clue to what I'm saying is the issue of dialectics and issue of reducing your size, not to the removal of poverty, but to the removal of destitution. This is the crucial distinction. I say so because the concept of poverty has expanded beyond all rational calculation in the last 100 years.
What exactly you want? You want development? You do not want.
The lifestyle of a US type of economy, everything else. That's where you get into the second problem that the West has taken. I'm just proposing it to you on our behalf, and then we'll add and we'll try to filter it out. There was a lot of discussion on education during last session as well as earlier also.
Each one of us has an interest, passion, or expertise in one subfield, and we like to create a small niche to interact with the rest of the world.
And how apologies become a major ritual.
Many recommendations were made after deliberations, and an Action India agenda was formed to transform the seeds of karma into kartavya. We were fortunate to have some of the keynote speakers share their thoughts, views, and feelings with us.
I do not believe there is evolution in society. Society do not go through stages of history. They have faced problems, they solve these problems, but new problems crop up in the course of solving these earlier problems. And they have to face the new crop of problems. They cannot say that we have reached a higher stage of civilization and there will be no problems. There is no problem. In that sense, I do not believe in that 19th century concept of stages of history or phases of growth. After saying that, I must also say that I am very optimistic about the future of India. This is 1 billion people. They have power. They partake in power. Their political participation is one of the highest in the world. Their commitment to democratic system, the Their commitment to the legitimacy of Indian political system is high. They feel efficacious in the political system. In fact, Indian electorate feels more efficacious than electorate in most other countries. That is why they they go out and vote regularly in elections, even when the elections are held every year. Our rate of voting is higher than most advanced democracies. They do so because they have a stake in the system. They have a stake in India. They are optimistic. And I would, in consequence, feel very optimistic. If they are optimistic about the future, they will bring the changes they require. It is for us to accept these changes and adapt to them and reconcile ourselves to the fact that many of our old jargons, many of our old ideas and values have become anachronistic, and they have no place in contemporary times. And if we align ourselves with the pragmatism and good sense of the people, perhaps we also can indirectly contribute something to future India.
India has become like a heart patient with a number of arteries blocked. Now, you know, when a number of arteries are blocked, you just don't give up. You perform bypass surgery. Today's event is one such attempt towards bypass surgery, so that the blood in India can again start flowing. It will not flow through the government machinery. It will not flow other than in a few states like Andhra and Madhya Pradesh. In the rest of India, it is not flowing at present. And it is bringing together diverse mechanisms, people like Sam Pitroda, the NGOs, various individuals, who can start making a change instead of complaining that there is no change.
We have, if we have one advantage, we certainly have a very significant number of skilled IT professionals and the possibility to create many more. We have a natural mathematical mindset. As you know, we invented zero, so we have a tradition, long tradition of logical mathematical thinking. We ought to translate that into truly development of skilled IT professionals. We have a reputation outside now that we are very good in this field. There is more and more with the communications and computing revolution and the internet, there is more and more possibility of providing a lot of services remotely. There is a possibility of using the internet to actually do a lot of work, IT-related work that can be done in India and then exported outside. So if you combine all of these types of things, there is a tremendous opportunity for India to develop on this front, and this could be very important in taking economic growth to another level.
People now in India understand, after 50 years, that promises during elections are never fulfilled. And therefore, if somebody goes and says that you do not have to go back to the same fellows again and again, but you can do something by yourself, people will start listening to it now. And that is what conferences like this should come up with issues to take back to the people, not for votes, but for development.
So we have tested a model, how to make every village a corporation. And every villager who is in the village for 10 years or old, automatically a shareholder, and what they can do. There is a very well-known model in the Israeli kibbutz movement. Everything is not right. All right, we take that model, and in each village there will be a major dining hall. Everybody will be eating in the same place. So therefore, if a rich person wants to eat a good food, then the poor person has to eat the same food, which is good, right? Second, every village will have a 1 megawatt power station. Whatever they can use it, and the other will go to the general grid. So there are some general common things for every village. A helipad with a 10-bedroom little hospital, and a doctor who comes every 2 hours a day and covers 5 villages. He can stay in his city, but he will also come on a helicopter. So every common things will be taken on a generic model. But each village is different. You and I are not the same. So to each village you will have an option to cultivate. You want poultry, you want animal husbandry, you want some factory, whatever it is. We will provide the seeds to do that. and everybody should pitch on that thing. And the school there will be a school at a elementary grade school in a village. This is, I call it as Gandhigrams. All will be Gandhigrams. Follow the Gandhian philosophy. Create the rural development. And we will have an infrastructure which has been tested in some villages in Rajasthan and some villages in Gujarat and one village in Kerala by these Lupin labs. There are some mistakes, there are teething problems. We will sort it out. But once that is done, this will be rolled over the thing. And who will be running this stuff? If you are from a village and you are in US, obviously you are emotional tie. So from each village we will identify at least 5 volunteers. We will call them big brothers, big sisters. They will be the consultants of taking that thing from wherever they are, not necessarily US, it can be Thailand, it can be England. And they will be supporting and whatnot. They won't have a voting right, they cannot take money, they can put money, and we are going to create lots of money on a 10-year interest-free loan, so that all these equipments, everything has been developed. And these people will monitor the progress. It will be a corporation type. You put more time, you get more rewards. I put less time, I get less reward. A carpenter can put time, a barber can put time, a dhobi can put time. Each one based on their own core competencies, they do that stuff. But every village need not be the same. And we will collectively, in about 5 years, this will be spread. Not only 300 or 3,000 NRIs, we are talking about 3 million NRIs. And each village, if the village is not having any volunteer, we will find some volunteers. But it is better to have that village person be responsible for that. If I come from my South Indian village, little village, I will be happy. Then I am going to also put some of this corporate world in India to be a big brother. Not only India, but also Motorola's, Enron. Hey, you want to do business in India, you support a village. 10 villages you adopt, 15 villages. So I find the financial resources, material resources. That's exactly what I'm going to talk this afternoon. So we are going to have an action plan which will start probably in the first 4 years or 5 years. But we reach the peak probably in about 10, 15 years. After that, it will be on its own.
I think it's extremely significant that Action India took its pledge to commit itself to the development of India from the Sabarmati Ashram, because Gandhi is the most relevant Indian in my mind. Was when he started, is today. And if we look at this whole mantra of decentralization that we're now talking about, it's something that Gandhi said right from the word go. He always talked about people's participation in power, people being empowered to make their own decisions. In a democracy, different interest groups are constantly trying to negotiate space for themselves and to empower their own agenda by putting it in the forefront. And Gandhi said this can't be possible unless the people who are directly going to be affected by our action are active participants rather than passive recipients. And I think that is really the most important motto that we should take with ourselves when we are talking about development in India. I offered, in my capacity as somebody who's known to generate awareness and also to influence in whatever modest way I can policy decision. I think these are the two areas that I can offer my services, and I'll be very happy to do so.
From distant lands, India appears too alluring, too reassuring, too ancient, at the same time too modern. You want to be back. It's like your mother. Mother may have faults, but there is no other mother. You know, you have only one mother in lifetime, and India is the mother. So you want to go back to the comfort and security of your mother. And yes, distance gave us a perspective. Distance gave us a chance to evaluate what was wrong probably with the systems that were existent here. And having seen another system, maybe we had a chance to say, let's do it differently. My inner feeling for doing something meaningful in this country is to motivate the youth, to instill optimism. If our people can go abroad and do so well, lead in all kinds of fields, they can do similarly here. It's the system that sort of defeats them. So my basic feeling in coming back has been that, yes, good things can happen. You work hard and there are rewards. You are honest, ethical, and hardworking. There is good things at the end of the rainbow. And then India needs good people, and India has plenty of good people. Feel good about being Indian.
I do see that the whole process of development has to be done ultimately by the people for whom it's meant, when particularly the marginalized, the poor, the politically marginalized, for whom we talk. They have to be the ones who take the lives in their hands. But in all these, there are initiators, and there are people who support, who initiate, who do that. And I see this group here as people with that kind of intentions. The question is, you might be well-intentioned, but are you also effective? And I think a meeting like this helps in people to get together and say that out of so many different things we can do, which are the ones which are more effective for the purpose of people deciding what they want to be and how they want to be. Let's consider some districts of Bihar. I mean, we all, when people talk of Bihar, they start laughing. I worked very intensively in Bihar, and I'm talking of places like, Begusarai, Saharsa, Nawada, Dhanbad, Dumka, particularly Santhal tribal area like Dumka. When you say what will happen to these districts, will the technology bypass them, what will happen? Now, if you're talking about information technologies and media and so on, obviously there are channels and this and that and coming in, but people's lives are still, the concentration of people's lives is on productive functions. On productive functions, what you produce, how you live, what you eat, what is your subsistence, what are things like this. How do you have more secure systems, food, water, and so on? When you look at these districts that I mentioned, for example, and we could even look at Jhabua, for example, there are very positive things which have happened there in terms of local people's movement. The Jago Bahena movement in Dumka, a very, very strong women's movement, which has taken many forms, both confrontational and both developmental, as self-help groups, but also confronting the bureaucracy, empowered in a certain way. In Begusarai, the local Vikalp Vidyalayas for education. In Jhabua, watershed development programs and so on. Now, to me, these are very significant things. They have happened along with all the so-called high technology things which are happening all around them.
And the ideas that have been generated here clearly show that there is a lot of discontent, at the same time a hunger and a thirst for new hope and some new challenges. I guess, having lived abroad a long while, one may be ignorant of the many obstacles that may be in the way of somebody who wants to change things. But also, that is the reason why one is so optimistic and feel that something really can be accomplished. I think what we have gathered here is a number of NGOs, number of intellectuals, number of government officials and academics. And I think the first thing that is accomplished by the conference is a network of these individuals. The second thing very clearly is established is that there is a need for doing something right away and to choose our location. I don't think we have to worry about having a perfect solution to anything, but we have to start someplace. My guess is that we will very likely start right where we have launched, somewhere in Gujarat. We'll pick up issues that can be, that are staring us in the face, and also ones that seem to be able to amenable to quick intervention. Education has been a constant theme throughout these discussions. Literacy, what primary education, university education, almost on every front, we feel that there is a need to do something. I think the other area that stands out is something about women, and something that would promote the further empowerment of women. A third area that may deserve attention immediately is the issue of political reform. I think these are some of the things that have come out of the conference, and this is something that we are likely to pursue.
You know what excited me particularly was the fact that they have kept a great deal of the Gandhian principles in mind. They've seen that progress has to be truly non-violent in character, that you cannot have progress at the expense of people, and you can't have violent structures. So I think they're also examining the structures that they're proposing. And so there's an introspective exercise that's going on, which is very needed, very much needed. And I think people like, the presence of people like Ila Bhatt, for example, is very encouraging here, because she has worked in a truly Gandhian way, and she's really brought about a revolution in terms of women's self-reliance. So I think the fact that their action is linked to Gandhian precepts is very encouraging. It's not mindless technology, you know, it's not sort of, it's not unbridled technological growth. It's sort of people-sensitive approaches. And I think they're here to look at the whole panorama of possibilities. This is an exploratory kind of an exercise. They're trying to bring in different people's perspectives. And my sense is that they will create focused groups around many of the issues that they're interested in. I'm glad they're thinking about issues like education. They're thinking about issues like literacy, women's empowerment. These are all omnibus issues, but I think the way in which they tackle it will be crucial. How will they bring a truly new approach which draws on tradition but is also innovative at the same time? I mean, that will be the real challenge.
We are at a very critical point of time. To me, the next decade of the next century is going to be a major power struggle between the democracy of the elite at Gandhinagar and Delhi and the democracy of the Dalit at Jamnagar and Bila. Because it is there, if there is an attempt to stymie, to strangulate the finish of the panchayats. Because people who are enjoying power so long are feeling afraid, apprehensive. There is a threat perception that they will no longer be there. By now, good or bad, everywhere, at least 33% and over women have tasted power. Dalits and others have tasted power. And the rural people who are more or less always at the wrong end of things are also tasted power. So they would not like to see that the power goes away from them. So the next 10 years, I'm not an astrologer though, but I can say this much, I presume that there is this power struggle will take place and then a new balance of correlation of power will come back to make India a really federal unit.
Basically you need funds. Government will have to produce these funds from somewhere or other by curtailing some other jobs. And then a lot of NGOs can come forward. If we will depend for everything on government, the government will have its own limitations. Now in between some cyclone comes, in between some war comes, and then whole attention is drawn, diverted. So we will have to depend on major government funds, but lot of NGOs also should come forward and adopt villages and do things. Funds can be there, but today what is happening is that even in spite of giving the funds, on paper there is supposed to be a teacher. On paper there is supposed to be a school, but if you go there you find that there is no teacher. So all this thing will stop that. All right, the NGOs can be given this money. All right, now you run the school. So if that responsibility of running the school efficiently is taken up, then also it will be a great support to the government. And I think now that awareness has started everywhere, like what we are having today, this meeting, that all of us are aware that something is wrong and we must do something. If we will remain from a distance and watch and think that somebody else will do, it is not going to happen. इहले तज़ज़ुब से न कोई फैसला होगा, जो जुज़्ब हल नहीं होगा वो जुज़्ब मसला होगा. The meaning is that if you are not the part of the solution, then you are the part of the problem. You cannot remain out and watch something is happening. We call the tatastha in our language. Tat is the bank of the river. So if you are on the bank of the river and you are not in the mainstream, then you have no right that you will swim. So you have to take part in whatever is happening. So this Jagruti or this awareness, the quicker it comes, better it is. And I think the trend has started now.
I feel very good because there was a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of energy. I see commitment in people, I see a lot of enthusiasm, and now challenge is to translate that into something concrete. We have worked out a concrete program which I believe is achievable, modest, but I hope people don't raise their expectations too high. Invariably, I have seen in India, people raise their expectations, and sometimes when we don't quite meet that, they get very disappointed. They must realize that this is a process and not a product. Don't expect product out of it next month or month after. It's a process, and process takes its own time. And we have launched the process. We have identified people, location, purpose, and means will follow.
Some people are very pessimistic about these kinds of things. I'm not. I think basically Indian systems are resilient enough. There can always be an initial hiccup. Look, if you're in this game for the short run, for attending a seminar and then going away, then don't enter it. It's much too serious. Poverty, water, female illiteracy, it's at the core, the raw edge of Indian society. But if you are in this game in a persistent way, then we are a democratic society. And we have shown that in spite of all difficulties, non-governmental organizations can be a part of the solution of the system. So then think of yourself not as somebody like a chamber of commerce asking for things. Think of yourself as an actor. That would be my first advice. Second, as I said, it is not just resources that we are talking about. I think Action India can help us in terms of strategic planning initiatives, in terms of the skills, the great skills these people have. You had here some of the top CEOs of corporations in the world. Even if they give us half a day every fortnight, you know, it can make a world of difference. Management skills, the skills so that you don't accept defeat with initial adversity, but then you work out strategies to overcome it. That's what we need. But we need people who are in this game for a certain length of time with commitment. And I think Action India is at a phase where it is just exploring all of this. And I hope they will work out their niche. And there are a large number of people like me who have come here to express solidarity. But more than solidarity, we will support them in the days ahead.
I think that you have to have some sort of idealistic vision, and many people have said that, you know, it's too idealistic and you're making all these dreams and you never know what could really happen. But the thing is, you can't expect everything to change overnight, but you have to dream something big. Then that way, even if you fall short of your actual dream, at least you will have achieved something, you know. And I think that it's always best to have the optimistic view, and especially seeing a place like this today, all these great minds coming together and discussing these things, it inspires you even more to say, like, there's so many things to be done. Even if we put our minds to it and solve a little problem, if everybody solves a little bit, then think, you know, if everybody puts their minds to it, how much can change?
We had sessions on 4 objectives of Action India. The first session was hasten the development where the bottlenecks. And during that session, people tried to identify what the bottlenecks were, which namely came out to be, there were the policy bottlenecks, there were the management bottlenecks, technology bottlenecks, resources bottlenecks. And some means to alleviate those bottlenecks were discussed in the first session. There was a session on the second day, a consensus building session. In a pluralistic society where there are conflicting interests, how do we come to a convergent point where most of us agree on a session? This to us is an extremely important issue in a pluralistic society like India. And there were good points raised. How do we have a process of convergence? And one of the things that was expressed was we should celebrate diversity, and just say we should be united in diversity causes a lot of anxiety unnecessarily. Then there was a session on human resource and material resource development, where the critique of present education system was given, how villagers can be empowered, and how technology can be harnessed. What came out of that session was, we will do, with the help of Gujarat University or Baroda University, a seminar of a lot of vice chancellors from all over the country, and see if we can come with a paper of how to reconstitute the education system, at least at the university level. So this is in summary what transpired over 2 days. We will edit the proceedings and will be sent to everybody that was participating in the conference. We have a plan. I would split into a short-term and a long-term plan. A short-term plan would be establishing the structure within the state of Gujarat, an office, helpers, and also
doing some of the programs that we mentioned at the end of the session today, namely getting some doctors here, specialists, and sending them to local district hospitals, getting management experts to interact with the small-scale industry here, taking the small-scale, medium-scale industry people from here to Silicon Valley, interacting with that, having another session in 3 or 4 months with the students of Gujarat, and trying to establish our chapters in the districts of Gujarat. So this will be the short term. In the longer term, which I mean next 3 years, we want to connect with all the states in the country and have similar networking partnerships started in all the states and most of the districts in the country.
All these ideas make a lot of sense. There is a strong sense of optimism and a strong desire to do something for the development of the people of India. The stress is on people's participation in order to overcome the obstacles and hurdles that we face. The Action India initiative is all about becoming an agent for change, not individually but collectively. It is all about synergy in order to have an action-oriented program with dedication and enthusiasm. As we stand on the threshold of the new millennium with new challenges ahead, there is reason for hope and for optimism.